Hi there, and welcome to this week's Gersnet Weekly Podcast. So Rangers get back on the winning trail with a victory over Hearts at Ibrox. We'll do the usual post-match debrief. Meanwhile, Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace were sensationally kicked out of Ibrox last week. We'll pick the bones out of what has been a dramatic fallout from last week's humiliation at Hampden. And finally, we'll look at the kit deal announced by the club with Hummel last week. And we'll ask if it's a sign of progress off the pitch, and I must emphasise the off part of that statement. Your Gersnet Podcast host this week is me, Colin Armstrong, and I'll be chewing the fat with Ross Bennett and Gersnet legend Pete this week. How are we doing, guys?
Evening, Colin. Very well, thanks. Yourself?
Not bad, not bad. How are you, Pete?
Evening. Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Are we all in a bit more positive frame of mind after that today?
Yeah, it was very good. A lot more happy than we have been the last few weeks anyway.
What about yourself, Ross?
Yeah, no, very, very positive this evening. It's been a lovely weekend sat in the sun anyway, so it's all good.
Okay. For our listeners' sake, we'll let them know that yourself and Pete have been winding me up because you live in warmer parts of the world than I do right now. So I don't need to know about barbecues and all that nonsense. We'll just get straight into the topics in hand. Ross, I'll come to you first. How did you feel about the game today and the performance overall?
Well, I mean, it's night and day from last week, isn't it? It was. I thought we were very much in control. If we hadn't walked away with 3 points, it would have been an absolute travesty. I think certain players were still somewhat anonymous and were still a wee bit hidden. One, Mr. Windass in particular for me, but I thought the majority of the players out there today really kind of seem to have learnt a lesson from last week, have responded in a really positive way. Some really good individual performances. And actually, I think the team deserved to win by more than just the one goal.
Pete, what about yourself? Are you happy with that performance today?
Yeah, well, I certainly think we dominated the first half. Up to 30 minutes, we were really, really good, actually. But they were just missing that wee cutting edge at the end up in the last third anyway. And, yeah, Windass, yeah, he was invisible, but he had some, really, the ball to Murphy for the goal, he had some great bits of football as well. And that's the thing with Windass. Even although he's not, he disappears, he can still produce that magic cut for parts of the game, and that's why I think Murty keeps picking him.
I've got to be honest with you. I think I would lean with Ross more where Windass is concerned. He obviously has goals in his game. There's no doubt about that, but I think that's been masking a sort of a below level or what we would expect from a Rangers player in terms of his overall performances. I think Ross is right. I think he tends to hide in games. I think he had one decent effort today, a shot down at the sort of near post. But other than that, I genuinely am struggling to think of anything positive he sort of contributed to the game. Defensively, Ross, suspect again though, surely. That goal we conceded was shocking.
It's certainly not good enough from the centre-backs in particular. Looking at that goal that's come in, the ball, it's a nice ball that's come in. It's a good dead ball that's come in, but it goes over their lad at the front post, goes over his head. Doran's behind him, kind of seems to duck out of the way of it. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but the fact that the next 2 or 3 lads lining up to knock that ball into the net are all Hearts players, in particular Christoph Berra and Kyle Lafferty, who are 2 big players, both of whom are good in the air. Where were our centre-backs? And it's not the only time, it's not the first time that we've seen this. That our kind of set up and structure at defensive set pieces is bizarre at times. I don't know where Russell Martin or Ross McCrory were this afternoon when that ball comes in, because you've got Berra and you've got Lafferty lining up to knock the ball into the net, completely unchallenged. There's nothing that Anik can do about it. So yeah, a little bit defensively suspect. I thought, that aside, Ross McCrory was slightly poorer on the ball than he's been in previous games, but neither of the centre backs are as bad as they have been in the past few weeks. I thought Tav had an okay game, but actually I was really impressed by Declan John. I thought he had a really strong game and was kind of looking more like the player that he looked in the earlier parts of the season. So again, I think that, and we've all spoken about it on the podcast before, that defensively we've been really suspect all season, and there were still hallmarks of that today, but it's certainly nowhere near as bad as it has been.
Can I just come in there? I would actually like to know what the offside law is in a thing like that, because there was 2 Hearts players offside. Naismith was offside, and I think it was Suter at the back was offside. And Naismith even jumped for the ball to try and header it. So what is actually the offside law in there? In my eyes, there was 2 players offside when the ball was kicked. Although I would agree Berra wasn't, that's for sure, 100% sure. But there were 2 players offside, so I really wonder what the law is in that situation.
I think you need a degree in refereeing these days to understand the offside rule, Pete. But I agree, I thought Naismith was offside. That said, though, I don't think it excuses the sort of level of defending at the free kick. But the minute Naismith goes for the ball, which he does, and you could maybe argue that Doran's he undoubtedly ducked. He's maybe done that on the basis of, well, Naismith's offside, I'll just let that go. I don't know, but I thought Naismith was offside. But the old adage is you play at the whistle, is it not? You know, you play until you know you've got that decision. And I still think defensively it was so bad at that set piece, and it's been a thing that's continued throughout this season.
Maybe he's been watching Mikolachenko videos.
Well, maybe, who knows? In terms of the team, Pete, 3 changes. So Anik came in, which I must admit surprised me. Jason Cummins came in, and Jason Holt. Were you happy with the selection? Do you think Murty got it right today?
Well, I think the result proves that he got it right today. I was really surprised. I certainly wasn't expecting a change in keeper, although I've probably been Fotheringham's biggest critic. But no, Jason Cummings, I certainly wasn't. I might have thought about him in a 2-man forward line, but I certainly wasn't expecting him as a lone forward. And I don't really think it's a position that suits him, although he did get the winning goal today. The first half he wasn't that great, and he wasn't into the box as much as you would hope he would be. There was quite a few times that the Murphy and Candeias were getting forward, but he wasn't in the box. Although the second half that seemed to change, and he got into the box a lot more.
Ross, Pete mentions Jason Cummins there. Says he shouldn't have been a lone striker. I can kind of agree with that. I know where he's coming with that. I think after the miss from Morelos last week, though, I thought Morelos played well last week, but that miss, it's been, there's been a few of them now. I wasn't surprised to see Cummins come in. Took his goal well, I thought. Should have had another. Do you think he deserves to start next week against Celtic? It's a big game now, obviously. If they win the title. If Aberdeen, I'm trying to remember how this works, if Aberdeen fail to win on Friday against Hearts, then Celtic only need a draw on Sunday against us to win the title. Does Cummins deserve a start in such a big game after that today?
Well, I cannot see Murty going with 2 up top. I think that's out of the question. So then it kind of boils down to who are you going to play as your lone striker? And if that's the question, then for me, it has to be Morelos. I think Morelos offers a lot more, dropping slightly deeper. He's a bit more physical and he holds the ball up a bit better. For me, he's better with his back to goal and bringing others into play. So I think Cummins is a real penalty box striker. He's got a wonderful eye for goal, but he's good going forwards, kind of running off the shoulder of the last man. Whereas Morelos just offers a little bit more outside the penalty area for me. The question really could be, though, I don't think we're going to see a kind of a classic 2 up top next week. Actually, I agree with that. It could be suicide to do that. But could you play one just off the other? Could you play Morelos in the Josh Windass role, for example, and have Cummings up top? And for me, that could work. The only other option to kind of try and shoehorn Cummings into the starting lineup would be to play him out wide left, which he's done before. I'm sure he did it at Hibs, and it could be done, but I don't think there's any way you could drop Murphy. So the only way for me that Cummins is getting a start next week is if Murty was brave enough to drop Josh Windass, and I can't see him doing that because for whatever reason, Josh Windass seems to be the first name on the team sheet every week for Graham Murty. But if we're going with 1 up top next week, for me it has to be Morelos for everything that he offers outside of the penalty area.
The funny thing is, I think if he'd have played more Morelos today, Hearts would have been waiting for that. I think they were actually wanting Morelos up was next to Berra. And I think putting Cummings up there actually was put Berra right off his game, because Cummings is not the kind of player that Berra likes to play against. He likes to play against the physical type of players. If that was Murty's idea, then it was actually quite a good idea.
Well, I would kind of tend to agree with that. Going back to what Ross said about Cummings, though, I thought a couple of weeks ago against Motherwell, I think it was a game that Windass got injured and Cummings came on for him the sort of last 10 minutes. I thought Jason Cummings done that role pretty well, the drop and deep role and sort of providing, being the link man between middle to front. So I think he could maybe do that job next week. But I agree with Ross in terms of, I don't think Murty will drop Josh Windass at all. I don't think that's going to happen. If it was between the two for the one up top, Pete, who would you go with?
Yeah. After the day, I really want Cummins in the team, but I would also I'd love to see that 3-5-2. But for that, you would probably need Bates to be better again, and I haven't heard anything that he's just about to return to training, so I don't think we're going to get that. But between the two, I think I've got to go with Morelos.
Has anyone else today played? I mean, I thought Jason Holt done okay today. Is anyone else that's came into the team today played themselves into contention for next week?
Well, Jason Holt definitely. He wasn't man of the match. I think Candeas was man of the match, but Jason Holt was outstanding. And Dorrans had his best game since he pulled on a Rangers shirt in my view anyway, because I've been one of his biggest critics as well. But he was really good today, and I think he got the whole game going with that tackle in the first half. He put in a really solid tackle into, I don't know who the Hearts player was now, and that sort of got the crowd lifted, and that lifted the players as well. So that sort of put a stamp on the game. Ross,
would you have Jason Holt in that team next week after that today?
Do you know what? I don't know what it is, but we seem to play better with Jason Holt in the side. And that's not because he's a world-class player or anything, but there's something about him in the side that just makes us look a little bit more secure. I think he does offer quite a lot going forward as well. So if it was, him or Docherty or him or Goss, do you know what? Yeah, after today, I would have Jason Holt in the side there. Look, for if nothing else, he's one of the few players that you can count on to really give 100% every week. And his quality's not always as high as we need it to be. And I certainly don't see him still being at the club in 2 or 3 years' time, because he's not the quality that we need to win 55, in my opinion. But, based on his performance today and his sheer endeavour and his work rate, and that's what we're going to need next week, is players that are willing to give 100%. I think I would have him in the team, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this going into the game, guys. There was a couple of people I noticed it on social media with regards to Morelos, showing him warming up, and he just looked scunnered, for wanting a better phrase, to be honest with you. And he looked really petulant and really as if he was in the huff. Based on everything that's happened over the last week, and we'll come to that later on, is there a possibility, that Morelos is becoming a bit of a negative influence in the dressing room? Is he becoming quite disruptive? Because I just kind of get the feeling that, at the end of last week, obviously had that spat with Docherty. By all accounts, it continued down the tunnel and into the dressing room. Both players benched today. He's seen trotting about the pitch in the huff. Is he becoming, he's quite selfish, he seems quite petulant. Is he becoming that sort of negative influence in the dressing room?
I'm going to stick up for him, actually. Listen, we're talking about a guy who's, 20, 21 years old, who's played a consistent 18 or 19 months worth of football with no break. Who's moved to an alien environment to him, where he will be under intense media pressure unlike anything he's ever felt before. He's had, let's not shy away from the fact he's had some horrific misses. For all the goals that he's 18, 19 goals in the league this season, he scored some wonderful goals, but he's had some shocking misses. And because of that, he's been absolutely hounded by the press over the last week or two, and also received some really nasty and quite abusive comments, unfortunately, from our own fans on social media. And he finds himself benched. I'm not saying I agree with the attitude that he showed warming up, because it's not good enough and it's not what we expect from a Rangers player. But I do feel for the guy. I think, he's top goal scorer and he finds himself benched. That's fine. That's what happens. You're playing as part of a team. But some of the messages he's received over the last week over social media, some of the things that have been written about him in the press, the guy needs a break. And for him especially, the end of the season can't come quick enough. If I'm being honest though, I almost now can't really see him being here next year. I think if any semi-sensible offer comes in for him over the summer, him and his agent are going to be straight on to Rangers and say, let's get this move done, because I think he'll probably want to move on.
Well, I think that,
you go.
I think that's why he was offered a new contract, to make it better for Rangers and possibly himself, that there'll maybe be a clause in it to let him go. I never seen the way he started today. Well, I've seen when he came on the park, but I didn't see before the game and warming up. The thing about Morelos is that even if he's not scoring, he puts in a good shift. And that's why I still wonder if maybe Morelos, if you could put Morelos up front and Cummings playing round about him instead of Windass, and let Windass drop Windass from the team. That's the way I would be more thinking about it, is dropping Candeas or Murphy.
Oh, I don't know where. I couldn't get behind dropping Candeas or Murphy, I've got to be honest. I think the two of them have been really good. I think Candeas has been a gem, I find. I really do. I love the wee guy. So no, I don't think I would agree with that. But with regards to Morelos, I think it's a really tricky one. And I kind of wonder if it's a sign of not having a manager that's strong enough to deal with that character, because the image that I saw today, someone filmed it on their mobile phone and put it on social media. I'm looking at that thinking, if that was a manager like Walter Smith, that would never happen. Never in a million years would that happen. So I don't know. I like Morelos. I think he's been fantastic this season. I think he offers a lot. He's strong, as I've said previously. He works the channels, does a lot of running, and he is actually not a bad finisher despite the horrific misses. But there's just that petulance and that selfishness. There was one today when he had the chance to pass it into Jason Holt, and I think Holt would have had an open goal. And when Holt never got the pass, he was going off his head. He was going ballistic at Morelos. And I just wonder if other players within the dressing room are becoming a wee bit frustrated at him, and whether that's festering into something a bit more troublesome. Taking things off the park for a minute, guys. Before the game, there was a sort of protest. There was a banner held up saying, we deserve better, and basically saying the board and players incompetent off the park and on it. I think there was something along those lines that said. I got involved in a wee bit of debate today on social media with a fellow Rangers fan who said that was bang out of order. That it was not constructive criticism and all this kind of thing, and that's not to go about it. I disagreed with that. I think the fans after last week had a right to sort of vent their frustrations. Fans protesting, yay or nay, David?
Yeah, well, I think they were perfectly right after last week's performance. They're perfectly right to do that. I was a wee bit more with the nobody singing. I like to. Then I think you're really hurting the team and not the board. I don't think it was a protest then for the board. It was again more hurting the team. And while I agree that the team were absolutely terrible last week, then I still think they should have gave them their support this week. Certainly have the signs. That was perfectly legitimate for me. But not singing. That sort of went against my curve.
So no vocal support. I can actually see your thinking in that. That actually makes sense. Obviously you want to get behind the team and see them over the line, but the banner saying we expect more. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's it. And I think in the second half they had a different one. It was mindless behind the scenes, heartless on the pitch. We deserve better.
Yeah.
No, I have no problem with them putting up banners like that. I think it's there for the board to see it. Although I think the board know that the fans are not happy. I think that's quite obvious. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, thank you.
Right, obviously we've got a few games to go here. We're currently sitting in second place. Incredibly, I saw a stat today. Celtic have only won 2 games more than us. You know what I mean? And yet we're in a fight for fourth here. How do you feel, Ross? How do you feel we're placed in terms of the running? I have to be honest with you. I'm trying to be positive here, but I do not feel confident about the run of fixtures we've got in front of us.
No, I mean, I would say it's a coin toss, but there's 3 teams in there, so there's no 3-sided coin we can toss and see which way it's going to come up. I think it could go to us or Aberdeen or Hibs, and there's probably an equally likely chance that it'll go to any one of us. Today was always going to be the easiest match that we have post-split, so we did the job, we did what we had to do today, but it's only going to get harder from here. I know we've got Kelly coming to us, but we've got to go away to Celtic and away to Easter Road as well, I believe. So the games are only going to get harder after today. I don't feel great, but we've had the making of Neil Lennon previously this season. The games have been quite close, but we know we can get a good result against Hibs. We know that Derek McInnes is a famous bottle job and can't do it against Glasgow teams and can't do it against good teams. So that's kind of in our favour there. I don't see us getting a result next week at all, but that's kind of by the by, I suppose. I think it's really going to come down for us. It's going to come down to the Kilmarnock at home game. Steve Clarke's beaten us twice this season, so we need to see what we as a club have learnt from how we need to set up against Kilmarnock, how they've played against us in the past. It's all going to come down to that game against Kilmarnock. Obviously, Kilmarnock lost yesterday, so they are beatable, they are fallible. It can be done. They're the form team at the moment, but I don't feel great. I think it's too close to call. But listen, at the moment we're sat 10 points behind Celtic. We have scored the most goals in the league. Our goal difference is, thankfully, is streets ahead of Aberdeen's, and it really could come down to that. So it's not all doom and gloom. We're probably, certainly mathematically at least, we're in the best position possible out of the 3 of us. So it's not all doom and gloom, but my God, it's going to be close, isn't it?
Wouldn't it be fantastic if Celtic lost all their games and we had another helicopter Sunday? That would. I'm dreaming already.
Aye. Very much so, it would appear, Pete. I mean, as much as I'd love it. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that stat today, that Celtic they've won 22 games and we've won 20. That's, I mean, when you consider the absolute nightmare of season we've had, and it has been terrible, especially at home, to only be 2 sort of victories off them is unforgivable. Even if we'd won 50% of the points that we dropped at home this season, we'd be right in the mix, and it's so frustrating. Quick, guys, next week, are we feeling confident?
No, in a word. No, I not at all. I think, given how I was at Hampden last week and I watched that horror show unfold, they know how easy it can be for them. I think if certain players today for us really showed up and showed that they cared, if the same players can show up and show a bit of fight and just show a bit of grit and determination, you never know. And, sometimes it's nice to be written off before a ball's kicked and we can be underestimated and we can show the world what we can actually do. And usually I'm quite positive and I'm quite optimistic, but I just can't see it this time, I'm afraid.
Pete, how are you feeling next week?
Well, it depends what Rangers team turn up, isn't it? I mean, if you look, take Hearts today, they just never showed up against, they didn't put anything into attacking us at all. And then look at the way they played against Celtic and beat them 4-0. So I think if Rangers can put out a team that will go and not give Celtic the chance to play what they did last week. I mean, we just, as I said on the preview for the game, we just laid down and let them rubber bellies last week. And if we don't do that and we go out and we get in Scott Brown's face and niche him and don't give them a chance. And I think that way, we've got to do that. I think the only player that can do that is Jason Holt. So for me, he would be a starter. Then I do think we can. I mean, we nearly beat them at Parkhead before, and we should have beaten them at Ibrox. So that's the way we've got to come out, and we've got to get into them. Get into them.
Well, I mean, if my way of feeling is anything to go by, we'll be okay, because I felt fairly confident in the last 2 games and we've been beat, and I'm dreading it on Sunday coming. So who knows? We might come up with a result. Right, guys, obviously you'll be aware that last week, after that capitulation on Sunday against Celtic, I'll be honest, I expected something to happen at Ibrox in the following week. Actually, if I'm being honest, I expected Murty to sort of be removed from post and maybe put to the side and let Jimmy Nicholl see out the looking after the team for the rest of the season. The one thing I didn't expect was for a club captain and most experienced player to basically be banished from the club. I thought it was remarkable. Absolutely stunning, everything that happened last week. And to me, it sort of shows where we are as a club at the moment. It's just really embarrassing. I thought, we'll get right to it. Was it the right decision to get rid of the two of them?
Well, I can't say no, to be honest. I think it seems there's a bit of a pattern emerging here with Kenny Miller, that as soon as a manager's under some pressure, he finds himself, being suspended or falling out with people at the club. So what's he doing? Is he undermining things? Is he thinking he's got a sniff at a management position at Ibrox? Is he, trying to usurp or launch some kind of a coup? And Lee Wallace, there's been all kinds of rumours flying around since the suspension, and actually before Wallace's suspension from the club, that Lee Wallace has been fit and able to play for a number of weeks now. And when you think about it, he's not kicked a ball all season because he had a hernia operation. Never known a hernia operation that's left someone out for this long. So, if they've been a disruptive influence and have undermined the manager, undermined the coaching setup, perhaps undermined the board, and have caused disruption and tension in the dressing room, then the regrettable part of this is that it shows us, it makes us appear like a basket case club again, and that's what we don't need. It's a PR nightmare, but if it's the right thing to do for the dressing room, then I'd have to stand by it.
Pete, surely, I slightly disagree with Ross there. Surely, people like Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. Lee Wallace is, I don't buy this. He stayed for the fight stuff. I have to say, I think Lee Wallace stayed with Rangers because it suited his personal situation at the time. I don't think he wanted to play in England. He couldn't earn the same money anywhere else in Scotland other than at Celtic, and that's not going to happen. So I think it suited Lee Wallace to stay at Rangers. So this, he stayed for the fight stuff. I've never really bought that, to be honest with you. I understand why Kenny Miller's, he's not really a likeable person. He comes across as quite arrogant and all the rest of it. And understand why he's kind of unlikable. But surely these guys, especially Miller, are people who know how a successful Rangers dressing room operates. And if they're seeing something that they think goes against what they expect in terms of standards, surely they've got a right to express that.
Well, obviously, everybody's got a right to express what they want to, what they think, and what they want to say. It obviously depends on how you do it, and I don't know how Kenny. I'm not in the dressing room, so I don't know how he approaches it. But he also gets blamed for giving information to the press and things like that. So that might be another way that he's undermining the manager. Last week was ridiculous that the team that Murty was going to pick was actually 2 days before it was on social media. So I don't know whether Miller's got anything to do with that, but he seems to get most of the blame for it with his connections to Jackson from the record. But he certainly has a right to have to criticise, and Murty should also be able to take criticism. But obviously there's a line between what is criticism and what is just being a bloody nuisance.
Sorry, just to add to that, Colin, you're sort of saying there that if these guys they know what it takes to win and they're winners. But I don't remember these two kicking up massive protests and fusses in the dressing room, in our first season in the Championship when we couldn't beat teams like Alloa. So is it that they are disgusted that they're playing in a team that's not winning? Or is it that they've smelt weakness in the manager and their actions are making that worse? I
think I've seen this comment on social media through the week, and I think it's a valid point. They never kicked off against McCoist in that season in the Championship. However, one thing I would say is, McCoist has a lot of collateral behind him in terms of, he's a club legend. So even if he is, driving a car crash of a club in the Championship, who in that dressing room has got the right to approach Alan McCoist and say, you're doing this wrong? And to me, that's the difference between McCoist and Murty. I think Miller and Wallace look at Murty and think he has not got a clue what this club is all about. I don't think anyone could level that at McCoist, and that's probably wrong. But unfortunately, that's how football works. There is a hierarchy, and it's always been there. And certain individuals, when they've got a certain amount of credit in the bank, become untouchable. I think that's what happened with McCoist. If it was any other manager in that Championship, I think senior players, and I think Lee McCulloch was there at the time, I think he would have spoken out as well. So I get that, and it's a valid argument. I really do think it's a valid argument. It's wrong that McCoist got away with it, and Murty's and getting it in the neck for these two. But to me, that's football. If people have a certain amount of credibility in the bank, you can't really challenge them.
Well, I don't think MD was criticising when he done it with Cakeson as well. I think everybody was quite happy that Cakeson get booted out shortly after it. And then obviously Murty let him back in. And now obviously Murty's regretting letting him back in probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is the way it works. I mean, Pedro is another one that, a lot of people will look at and think he's not got a clue. And it makes them easier targets. I mean, there's a lot of ego involved in football. And again, I have to emphasise, I'm not saying that that's right, but to me, that's how the football business operates. So, as Ross has pointed out, if someone appears weak and they've got nothing behind them in terms of credibility, then I think experienced players are going to question things and are going to say, well, this isn't good enough. I mean, going back to this has happened before when you think of Paul Le Guen and Barry Ferguson. Now, going by Barry Ferguson's version of events, I thought he was quite right. It was after a game at Inverness. They'd just been beat 2-1. Apparently, Le Guen came away with comments along the lines of, oh, well, just put it to bed. That's okay. We'll focus on the next game. And Barry Ferguson stood up and went, oh, actually, no. This isn't good enough. This is Rangers. And to me, that frustration is born out of Ferguson looking at someone who he thinks has no understanding of the club. And I think there's a bit of that here with Miller, Wallace and Murty. I think those two look at Murty and think he doesn't have an understanding of what this club's all about.
I take the point, and I think it's a good comparison to draw with Barry Ferguson in particular and the Le Guen situation. The difference for me there is that Barry Ferguson was, a player at this club since, the days that he started learning how to walk, whereas Kenny Miller is a career football mercenary and will play whoever pays him the largest paycheck. And Lee Wallace is a guy who's mysteriously been sidelined but still picking up his paycheck. I'm not quite sure what gives them the right to, take down the manager. And listen, we don't know how this has been done, because the way you're kind of saying it, of standing up and saying this isn't good enough, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But it depends how it's been done. And Pete's right to reference the fact that stuff has found its way to the media and to very unfriendly media sources like the Daily Record. And these things only seem to get worse when it's negative stories around people like Kenny Miller or the kind of old Scottish guards of the club. So it depends on how it's been done. And in the absence of real information about this kind of thing, it's difficult to know who to believe, but I'm always inclined to side with the club on this one.
Pete?
Yeah, well, I can only agree. I think the club have got to suspend them until they find out exactly what happened, obviously. And they are suspended. Obviously, if there's an investigation, I don't know what Rangers investigations are, at what level that comes in at. But obviously, if Miller and Wallace are found to have acted legitimately and it's Murty that's not wrong, then I would expect them to be brought back in again. But Miller seems to have a history of sort of a revolution and being a revolutionist to managers. As I say, he done it with Cakeson, and now he's done it to Murty.
But I mean, this is the second type of incident of this nature after a heavy defeat to Celtic. Obviously, there was a Joey Barton incident, and does it now maybe look like that this is, these incidents are now, this is how the club deal with them. This is how they deflect sort of attention away from themselves. With Joey Barton, it was like, right, it's his fault. We'll dump the blame on him. We'll get him out of the club. This time, it seems to be Kenny Miller and Lee Wallace. As I said earlier on, the last thing I was expecting was two players who never even played in the game to grab the headlines last week. Is this maybe the club's way, sort of almost like a distraction tactic? Just shift the blame, put the spotlight over there, and then people won't ask too many questions about how badly the club's been run at the moment.
Well, it would certainly seem that the club or the directors of the club, their best PR seems to be against the fans and not against other media sources. But as I said, I don't know how they're going to handle it. I don't know. And Barton, that was another sort of a different case. He really did lose his head, and as I say, I don't know what Miller and Wallace actually did. And from what I've heard, a lot of the players are standing behind them. And if you saw Candias when he scored this afternoon, he ran towards Murty, and then sort of I gave him a wee body swerve and ran past him and went to Halliday. So I was actually waiting for Murty to put out his arms and welcome him into his arms until Candias ran about him and then went to Halliday. And then he even called over more players from the bench to join in their huddle. And Murty was sort of left out of it. So that might be a story as well in the same sort of a category.
I'll need to correct you there, Pete. We don't do huddles at Ibrox, you know that. Anyway, I would agree with that, though. The celebration, I did think, was an almost a snub aimed towards Murty. He went to Halliday, who was obviously substituted last week. To me, that was a show of support to Halliday and maybe a wee bit of a two-fingered salute to Murty. I don't know. That's how it felt. Ross.
Can I make it a cuddle?
No, if you want a cuddle, you can have a cuddle. No bother. We'll go with a cuddle. But we certainly don't call it a huddle, that's for sure. We don't do huddles. The fact that the club have suspended Lee Wallace and Kenny Miller, Ross, does that maybe show that Murty has a stronger influence at Ibrox than we suspected? Is there maybe even a chance that he's going to get this job full time?
I mean, I'll answer that in two parts, and actually I'll answer that in reverse. Is he going to get the job full time? No, certainly not. I think even the board realised that would be almost suicidal with the fan opinion. But does it show that Murty is, perhaps stronger than we thought? Murty's had a lot of criticism for being a nice but weak guy. And I think a lot of that's probably quite fair, to be honest. So what better way to show the media and show the fans and show the country that you're not a weak guy, but to suspend two of your most senior players? Fair enough. As far as I'm aware, and this circles back nicely to the question of, is this the board just trying to deflect from a bad week and a bad result? As far as I'm aware, the board, the directors they kind of acknowledge the fact that they're not really football people. And so they're very keen to not be too involved in taking footballing decisions. And thank God for that, by the way. Thank God we don't have situations like we do down here in England. There's a lot of talk of boards who pick the team and get really involved in footballing decisions. Our boards are the antithesis of that in a lot of ways, allegedly, and are always very keen to kind of leave the footballing decisions to the footballing staff. And so I think if you look at the three major suspension of player incidents over the last couple of years, Joey Barton, Kenny Miller 1, and now Kenny Miller 2 and Lee Wallace, those have happened under three different managers. You've got Warburton suspending Barton, Kashinya suspending Miller, and now Murty suspending Miller and Wallace. And as far as I'm led to believe, that's because it's not because the board are taking a knee-jerk reaction to bad results and suspending players to try and, generate different headlines or anything like that. I genuinely believe it's three different managers have said, look, this player is undermining me, is behaving unprofessionally, and needs to be suspended for the good of the dressing room. And if that's the case, then I don't see what the board could do differently. I don't know how the board could kind of ignore the manager to side with a player that's allegedly been disruptive.
Can I just we're all talking about the board here. I wonder what the director of football's role in this is. surely he should be involved in this. But I haven't heard anything. He's been sort of disappeared under the table while all this is going on.
Well, again, I can't really disagree with that. Mark Allen's role is, I don't really know exactly what it is he's doing at Ibrox at the moment. I mean, it seemed to me that a lot of good work came out from him in January there. I really do think Rangers done some good business in January. But outside that, you don't even hear wee rumours here and there about what he's doing. Everyone seems to think, don't really know what this guy's doing and what's happening on the football side of things. So you're maybe right, Pete. He maybe should be getting more involved, but he maybe is behind the scenes and we're just not hearing what it is. But one thing I would say in relation to what Ross was saying there, that it's different managers that are going to the board. I would maybe contest that if the board appointed decent managers, none of this would happen in the first place. I do think who they've put in place to run the club has been a big issue and possibly the main motivating factor in all of this. Going sideways for a minute, Club 1872, they issued a statement after Miller and Wallace were suspended. Did both of you see it? And if you did, what did you think of it?
Well, I certainly seen it. And what I thought of it, I thought it was a good propaganda to try and get a man on the board. And honestly, if it wasn't, it didn't have the headline with Club 1872 and Club 1872 at the end up, I would have thought, I wonder if a director wrote that. Because it's just all about selling season tickets, and we'll keep selling season tickets, and we'll get a director on the board, and for the rest, I think it's a waste of time. And I don't think that statement should never have been made. It's absolutely terrible.
Ross, did you see it? How did you feel about it?
Well, I saw it, and I've seen a lot of the fallout from it as well, and a lot of fans saying it's weak and it's paying lip service to the board and it's pandering so that they can try and get a spot on the board and that kind of thing. But it seems like this week in particular, some fans will have been kind of satisfied with no less than blood rolling down the marble staircase. I don't really know what people wanted from Club 1872 this week. Do people want Club 1872 to come out and say that the running of this club is incompetent and it's not good enough? I'm not sure what that would achieve. And we've had some really kind of knee-jerk reactions from large sections of the support that I think have been largely unfair, in particular towards the board. I don't think actually Club 1872 needed to make a statement. They don't seem to have done their own PR any good making a statement. No one's come out of it very well. I think it was probably just a little bit needless, and it certainly wasn't going to satisfy a large section of the support who seems to have their knives out at the moment.
Surely though, Ross, the point of Club 1872 is, they're there to hold the club's feet to the fire on issues. That's how I would see it anyway. I must admit, I was slightly disappointed with the statement. And I think, based on the debate that's going on about Club 1872, as I've said previously, I think Club 1872 is a great idea. I think that's the way all football clubs should be going. I would support all sort of ideas and notions of fan ownership of football clubs. But the sort of accusations that are levelled at Club 1872, I think statements like the one they issued last week don't do anything to quell those accusations, and I don't think it was helpful at all. Moving quickly on, though, I'll give you a quick question each. Pete, are this board currently now living in borrowed time? It seems to me they've had a couple of cracks since the club's got to the top tier, and it's been 2 wasted summers. Is this their last summer of investment and signings and appointing a new manager? And if it fails this time, big questions have to be asked.
Well, I think you can ask questions, but who's going to come in? If has anybody got other investors to come in that will be Rangers that have Rangers at heart? I mean, I'm sure there's thousands of investors want to come in, like Craig White and all that kind of people. But God hope we don't ever get them in charge again. So I don't really know. I don't think there's any other wealthy Rangers supporters or even friends of Rangers supporters sitting waiting to jump in. So I don't know where that investment's going to come from.
Well, I would disagree with the wealthy Rangers supporter thing. I hear that Stuart Franklin's worth a few bob, but we'll not talk about that right now. Ross, moving over to you. In terms of a new manager, is there anyone out there that you think that Rangers should obviously go for and think if they come in, that would really get the fans on side again?
No. In a short answer, there's no standout candidate for me. And unfortunately, it's the same position that we were in back in December or back in November when we got rid of Pedro, and there's no standout candidate. And that's why we've ended up with Graham Murty at this stage of the season. There are a fair few names floating around. Perhaps the most prominent would be Frank de Boer. Who could we afford him? Maybe not. Could we build the team that he would want? Almost definitely not on the money that we have to offer. Would we give him enough time to build his own style of football here? Absolutely not. Then you've got guys like Michel Prudhomme, and then a lot of fans, possibly rightly, kick up and say, I don't want a manager that I have to Google. I want someone that knows the Scottish game, as much as I hate that phrase. Someone that has played or worked in Scotland. So a lot of our fans would write him off, and a lot of the media would write him off almost instantly as well. You get guys like Steve McLaren, who a lot of people would kind of turn their nose up at, and allegedly he's quite a good coach, but would he be able to cope under the pressure of the spotlight in Glasgow? It's doubtful. I don't think he could. So there's no standout candidate. If I was being really wishful, for me it would be if Belgium have a bad World Cup, Roberto Martinez might find himself out of work. He's obviously being employed part-time at Belgium, so he's not on a huge salary, and we could probably get close to what he's on at Belgium at the moment. His wife is from Scotland, so he's got ties to the country. Obviously, he played for Motherwell. So someone like that would work quite nicely for me. But I think for every candidate you can come up with, you'll probably find at least 50% of the support would disagree with you. So I really don't envy the board, and in particular Mark Allen, who it seems it's Mark Allen's remit to go out and find someone to manage this club. I don't envy them because there's no standout candidate for me.
Well, before we move on to the next topic, I'll have it confirmed that Stuart Franklin is minted, because I've just had it. I won't reveal my source, but someone just told me. Anyway.
Can I just come in on that one? Not Stuart Franklin, but over Frank de Boer. As anybody that's listened to the show before or know me, that I've got a lot of Dutch ties, and I was watching Dutch television during the week, and it was stated that Frank de Boer had knocked back Rangers for the job. He didn't want it.
I must admit, I'm quite surprised at that, because his agent said when Pedro left that it was a job he would consider, and I think he sort of fits a similar sort of mould to Brendan Rodgers. If Brendan Rodgers' career had went to plan at Liverpool, he wouldn't be anywhere near Celtic right now, let's be honest. And I think Frank de Boer made two bad choices in going to Inter Milan and then Crystal Palace. I think his stock is fairly low at the moment, and I think Rangers are almost like a level entry back into it again. If he came into a club like Rangers and done a good job there, his stock would rise again, and he would maybe begin getting quoted for the jobs that he was getting quoted for a year or two ago. So I'm a wee bit surprised that de Boer has already said he's not interested. Mind you, we are a bit of a basket case of a club at the moment, so who knows.
I mean, just to kind of highlight on de Boer there was a rumour that I heard a while back that, we kind of contacted him when Caixinha left, and we contacted him and said, would you be interested? And allegedly he said, I'm not interested now. I won't be interested until the end of the season, and even then I might not be interested. If that's true, that's not the kind of guy I want leading the club.
Fair comment.
Well, as I say, it was one of the top Dutch journalists that came away with that on Monday night in a television programme. But it was also rumoured during the week that we'd approached Clark, and that he said he wouldn't be interested either. So all the options that seem to be getting talked about are rumoured to be knocking us back.
Only time will tell what happens in that front, I suppose. Right, guys. I mean, I'm of an age now, and have a waistline that means that football kits are not my thing anymore. My days of wearing those kind of things have long gone. However, the club announced last week that they've got a new kit deal with Hummel. I have to admit, when I heard that, I was a wee bit disappointed. They kind of strike me as a bit of your Sunday amateur sort of kit manufacturer. However, they have got at least one classic kit in their history with the Denmark kit in the 1986 World Cup. The figures quoted for it are 10 million over 3 years. Ross, does that sound like a good deal to you?
Well, I think we have to believe that's the best deal that we could get. If that's the most money that's been offered to us and the best kind of manufacturing deal for the long term, then that's, it's certainly better than what we're getting at the moment. I'm like yourself in that I don't really wear the strips. I tend to buy them and I'll wear it going out for a run or something like that. But look, whether it's a Hummel logo or a Nike tick or Adidas or whatever, it doesn't bother me, and I don't think it bothers 99% of the fans, because whoever makes our kit will sell it. Because especially us being starved of merchandise for a few years there, you've seen the demand when we were able to buy the strips again. Whoever makes our kit, we will buy it in our thousands. So I think, Rangers probably kind of announced this news this week because they realised that the PR was really particularly bad at the moment. So they announced something to try and generate a bit of good news. And some fans just could not be cheered up, and some fans wanted to moan about it because it's not a Nike or an Adidas or an Umbro or whatever it is you want. But if this is getting 10 million quid into the club and Nike were only offering whatever they were offering, then to turn that down because you want a tick on your chest just would be ludicrous.
Pete, Hummel have said that they will release 3 kits per year. Now, as I said earlier, I don't buy the kits anymore. Those days are long gone. However, I do have a son. He's still interested in buying the kits. Given that supporters, there's a lot of money involved in supporting football clubs these days. I've just had a bill through for the best part of £600 to renew my season ticket and my son's. Is 3 kits a year too many?
Well, I don't think it's too many because it gives you a choice of what kit you want to buy. And as Ross says, I don't think it matters to the supporters what kind of brand it is, whether it's a tick from Nike or the 3 stripes from Adidas. As far as I read in the statement, there was 10 different tenders asked to put in a tender, and the Hummel must have been the top one. They get the job to do it. The thing is it a good deal? Obviously, Celtic have got New Balance and they're getting 30 million. Well, it's reported they're getting 30 million over 5 years. But where we are, could we expect a deal like that? Because Celtic have got Champions League every year up till now and probably for the next couple of years. So could we expect to get as much as they're getting at the moment? I doubt it. So I think it's possible, probably the best deal we could have got at this moment.
Ross, it's been highlighted earlier on that this is the first deal since Sports Direct were removed from the equation. And that obviously had a very detrimental impact in terms of how many kits went out the door. And it's almost like going into this, Rangers were at sort of ground zero in terms of a negotiating position, because I think Hummel quite rightly would say, well, how many units are you going to sell? So it does kind of feel like a new beginning on the kit front. Does the fact that we've got 10 million over 3 years and Sports Direct are no longer part of the equation, is this a sign that off the park at least this board are taking the club in the right direction?
I think it has to be. Yeah, I think getting Mike Ashley and Sports Direct away will go down as kind of this board's legacy, and should never be underestimated or undervalued. What a significant moment that was, and getting, was it 10 million over 3 years or whatever it is, £3.5 million a year from this kit deal. That's a player and his wages paid for there, as long as that's not Carlos Pena. So I think it gets cash into the club where we weren't getting cash in before, and that's what the boards have been good at. The boards on the park, things are not going well, and it's unclear really who the finger should be pointed at for that. But off the park, in terms of the finances and the fiduciary duty that the board have, that's where the boards are performing. And whether it's getting money into the club through kit sponsorships, being able to sell our merchandise again because you've negotiated with one of the toughest and cruelest businessmen in the country, whether it's the redevelopment being done at Ibrox and the surrounding areas, the redevelopment being done at Auchenhowie, I think there are really clear and obvious signs that the board are doing the right thing off the park and are trying their best to get further investment into the club, into what actually is probably quite an unattractive investment prospect if you're a big non-emotional, non-football aligned institutional investor. You wouldn't see as a particularly attractive investment. I think this is where the boards are kind of doing what they should be doing. And it's easy to see that. And I think actually in weeks like this week that we've just had, people willfully blind themselves to that fact because they want to point the finger of blame as high as they can. We're football fans and we have emotional reactions to things. But when you take a step back and you see some of the steps that the boards have taken, even things like being able to pass the resolution at the AGM to get a share issue going, these things are crucial, really crucial to the long-term financial health of any company. And I think it would be wrong of us to not acknowledge and appreciate these things when they come along.
Right, guys, great stuff there again. Only thing we've got left to do is to quickly go through the Sevco of the week. If you've got any quick update on the Stuart Franklin situation, I've just heard here that he's went into voluntary administration and liquidation and is now known as the Stuart Franklin. So there we are. It's all done. Anyway, Sevco of the week, Ross. Do we have any?
We have an absolute cracker from someone who calls himself Finlay Boy. Right. And I don't know about you guys. I've been watching a lot of the Commonwealth games over the last week or two. I've loved it. It's been great. Finlay Boy has pointed out, not sure why we still have the Commonwealth games, probably just so that Sevco can feel important. I don't even know where to begin. But honestly, whatever gets them through the day, that's fine.
Well, some of the stuff I see online is it's the only thing that makes me smile. Actually, you know what I mean? It's to be in that position that they're in and still get involved in that stuff is sort of beyond me. But anyway, right, that's us for another week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Big thanks to Ross and Pete for their contribution this week, and a big thanks to our audio guru Graham, who I continually get his name wrong, but I've got it right this week. Big thanks to Graham, who will polish the product into something fantastic for you all. If you're looking for any Rangers-related chat, get yourself onto Gersnet at www.gersnet.co.uk. Get on the forums there as well. There's lots of banter on there, lots of good people talking about some excellent Rangers chat. Obviously, it's the Celtic game next week. There'll be the podcast after that. If you've enjoyed this, get it out there on all the usual forums, Twitter, Facebook. Hope you have a good week, and thanks for joining us.